the five-piece all-rock band that are Venus Grrrls. Actually, I love to say it in a way that's just the way that it says on the T. I just go for ages with their Grrrls, for like a good 5 minutes. I absolutely love the name. And another single is out called Hate Me that has such a great melody to it. The guitars back it up so well. And it's just, again, another epic tune. The song looks at the complexities of lack of communication between people and even the injustices of how unfairly some people are judged by society. It's action-packed with its incredibly infectious melody. It is just in my head non-stop, and you girls have done it again. It's so freaking awesome. How does it feel to have another song out in 2021?
Like relieving, I think, to think that we managed to get something else out, to be honest.
That we've managed to be in the studio.
It's been such a struggle to get things done. You know, we've had studio time cancelled twice this year, so we wanted it to be out a hell of a lot earlier than it was, but you know, we're just grateful that we were able to do it and had the opportunity to do it. Like, it is still really good. We've managed to do 2 songs this year, so definitely not the worst outcome ever, and we're grateful that we've had the opportunity to do it. 100%.
Apparently, did it start with a garage band demo in like a classic way with the lockdown experience, with just there with the technology that we have? Is that how it all started?
Yeah, so obviously typically when we wrote together, it'd be very obviously it would be in kind of like a standard way, like a band room, and you know, it'd either be I'd bring in some chords and lyrics, or one of the girls bring in a riff or a melody or something. It would always kind of go off, you know, it'd be a very kind of equal collaborative thing. So obviously when the lockdown happened, it was like, oh, like what do we do? Because we'd never like written remotely with each other or anything like that. So it was like, it was really kind of difficult, but I think a necessary lesson for us to learn, especially as now we all live all over the country. So we've had to kind of change the way we write now, in the sense that it might start with in a similar way. Someone might have a melody idea, but just getting it down in GarageBand and just kind of, or Logic or whatever. I mean, I don't have Logic anymore, so I just use GarageBand, Drafty or GarageBand, just to kind of get our ideas down, and just to kind of keep the creative process going, even through the pandemic and through the distance and stuff like that. So I think, it definitely did start as just, I'd written some just sort of chords and lyrics, and I'd sent it to the girls in kind of different stages, and they'd give me their feedback, and they'd say like, oh, this would be cool here, this would be cool here. So we were still writing quite collaboratively. And then we took it into our producer, Sugar House Music, Adi and Lee. They saw a lot of potential with the tune, and we just kind of we just made it better in the studio, really. The fundamental basis of the song is very similar to the demo, but obviously it just sounds a lot more polished and a hell of a lot more professional than my rubbish GarageBand demo. But it was fun to do it, and it's kind of become our new way of writing now, because it's the only way we can, really. We meet up for rehearsals as often as we can. Usually we're trying to keep it kind of bi-weekly at the moment, but obviously it's proven difficult in recent times. We've been quite unlucky, but you know, hey ho.
Be so interesting for the rest of the band to be sent over an idea which, you know, could be just a bit more polished than just you're sitting around together and there could be a chord progression or some lyrics. What was it like for the rest of the band to all of a sudden be given this idea and start putting their own little stamp on what they normally do with a Venus Grrrls song?
Yeah, it's definitely more exciting in a way, like when you get like a bounce over, because you're like, oh, a new demo, like you're going into it like fully open-minded. You don't know what it's gonna sound like. And I think as well, because we're using GarageBand or Logic, it's a lot more developed straight away, because you can just like add samples or things are already there, like as a template for us to then like go off and like fully just improvise with and change. I think sometimes the process can be a bit quicker actually that way as well, because you've got like quickly more like things at hand when you're using. And I come from like a production background, so it's definitely like more on my wavelength. I do a lot of stuff when I'm composing just using Logic straight away, rather than being like in a rehearsal room and doing it from scratch. So in a way, it has been good, but you do miss just being in a room together and seeing where that takes you as well, because just because we were so different when we were writing, like it is sometimes like Hannah will bring like a bass riff, or like Jess a full on like solo-y thing, and she'll be like, done this. Whereas you don't get that as much. It's more just like GK coming out with all these cool demos, which is still really good. But yeah, it's not as like varied because obviously we're not being in the room as much together. So it'll be good when we can get back to that a bit more regular, because we used to rehearse like so much, especially if shows were coming up. We were literally like rehearsing every day when we were all in Leeds, sometimes like 5-hour rehearsals.
Oh.
So yeah,
we worked very hard. We worked very hard pre-pandemic. We were on such a roll pre-pandemic. We were rehearsing so much. We were so tight together as well. It's such a shame when it hit. We were playing so well, and then it just, we got back together after months of not playing, and we were like, oh, we sound terrible. Well, honestly, it was such a shock to go back to it after not playing together for so long. But we're slowly getting back up to speed now, you know.
Oh, that's good. And I'm guessing there are some positives through that kind of time away, where all of a sudden, you know, all of a sudden that appreciation, that sense of, I'm guessing from like feeling that pain of, we were sounding so good, there's a bit of competitiveness there where you're like, oh, we need to get back there. So there's even more fire in your belly to really kickstart everything again. And I'm guessing hearing the melody from GK for this song must have been something that really got everyone going, because it's just so infectious.
Same with Goth Girl as well. Like when we heard when I heard Goth Girl for the first time, I was just like, that's a banger. Like, especially because of like what it was about as well. I know this is kind of more like talking about Goth Girl as well, but just the themes that come up with both of them, we have definitely like became a lot closer as friends because we've had that time to actually like just hang out together as well, like rather than just always music and gigging. So like learning about our own like spirituality and different things like that and coming together just as friends a lot more as well has been good. I think that's definitely going to help us grow in the future as well. When we'll get back at it, we'll have those stronger relationships to like keep us together and sort things out when it gets busy and stressful.
Yeah, I bet. And also, like you say, with Goth Girl being, you know, such a fantastic tune, like it is a banger. It must feel exciting that hopefully with this year, who knows when things are possible with live music, having these 2 new songs to add into the set list. You guys must be so pumped to get back out there and just shoot it everywhere and just be like, this is what we can do, and just show off how catchy and awesome you guys are. It must feel so.
Oh, thank you.
You're ready just to go, aren't you?
Yeah, we're very looking forward to that first gig back feeling. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm nervous for it. Like, you know, it's crazy to think that. But I know it's going to be as soon as we're up there and we're 1 song in, I'll be like, oh, I feel fine.
It's back to this again, the old grind again. Yeah, I bet. Have you got anything lined up for when things are possible?
Yes, we do. We've got a headline show already announced at Key Club in Leeds on the 6th of November. You can get tickets for that now.
Like you say, your last gig was in February last year. That's a whole year, and your first single came out in 2019. When did you guys come together as a band?
We started like vaguely rehearsing towards the end of 2017, but it wasn't until 2018 that I think we proper started. We started rehearsing because I'd put Grace and I lived together. We don't now, but at the time we were, and I had said to her that I wanted to form, you know, an all-girl rock band, and you know, I immediately was like, do you want to be in it, sort of thing. And she came on synth, and then I put a post out on our uni sort of group and on social media, because we all went to Leeds College of Music at the time, and Jess, our lead guitarist, was tagged in it. And I actually knew Jess vaguely from going to college together in Watford before we moved to Leeds. So and we ended up at the same university, but she was the year above me. So we didn't really speak much. I'd only ever seen her in passing. But she was tagged in it, and I was immediately like, oh my God, yeah, Jess. Like, I knew she played guitar. I just completely had forgotten. And Gabby got in contact with me from the post on social media. And at the time I thought she was a singer. God knows why. I don't know why I thought she was a singer, but she was a drummer. And I was like, oh, brilliant. When she messaged me and I thought she was a singer, I was like, oh, like, I'm planning to sing. I don't want to tell her that, like, I don't want to be like, I'm singing. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to, you know, but then, and when I was just like, oh, like, you know, what do you do? She was like, oh, I play drums. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I was just like, yeah, So she sent me a video of her playing, and I was immediately like, yeah, like I could see how much talent she had. But Hannah, the bassist, I actually recruited her because I'd seen her performing in another band at our uni, and I just thought she was so cool. And she said no at first. I was so sad. She said no, and she was like, oh, I'm just so busy, like not in like I don't want to be in your band, just in like I'm just really busy sort of thing. And then a few days later, I was really struggling to find a bassist, and a few days later I said, will you just one rehearsal and just see how you feel, like just give it a chance. And she did anyway. And then after 2 or 3 rehearsals, we had 2 or 3 rehearsals quite spaced out, and then I was just like, let's just try a cover and just see how we all play together. And I was like, do you all know Rebel Girl by Bikini Kill? And I was like, this is the chords, let's just give it a go. And we listened to the song a few times, we played along to the song, and eventually we just, within this one rehearsal, we started changing bits here and there in the song to kind of make it our own and make it our own version. And then after that, it just picked up, and we got offered our first gig. And when we were offered our first gig, which was February 2018, we only had that Bikini Kill cover. We had no original material, and we accepted the gig on the basis of having no original material, but we had a couple to get it sorted, and we did. We got 5 songs together in time.
That's incredible. I love that.
Yeah, and then the rest is history. It's not stopped since, really.
It must feel crazy, even though it's been 2.5 years, that you think that core reason why you girls started doing this, wanting to do it together, especially when you guys, the intentions that you as a band have, I think that just engages people as well, and kind of encourages people more to get involved in whatever community you guys build or walk into at any given point. And like you say, in terms of keeping up that ethos that you spoke about, keeping that Riot Girl spirit going, even though maybe you sound a bit different a bit later on, or from on this track and whatever. What do you think resonates with people that listen to you guys the most? Do you think, not the music, how catchy and whatnot, but with what you want to portray within your music? What do you think precisely really engages people?
I think lyrically, I mean, I write the lyrics for the songs, and they're often based on very personal experiences, or the experiences of maybe like other girls in the band, or experiences of, you know, I kind of take, when I write lyrics, I take a lot of things into consideration. It's never just like a direct kind of, you know, this happened to me in my life. Sometimes it can be like that, but I try to kind of draw on a lot of experiences, particularly of my close friends, especially in the band. And I think I try to write as general as I can, because I don't want it to be too specific, because I want people to be able to think of their own situation and apply their own context to that, to the nature of the song. Because I think that's one thing I think is very important, is, you know, allowing people to interpret and resonate with a song that might be totally different to another person. And I think that's the goal I think we're trying to hit, is that we want people to just experience the song in their own individual ways. So I think writing kind of generally, and as, like, for lack of a better word, vaguely as I can, you know, but also being quite direct is, you know, kind of what we want to do, and what, you know, what we want our music to be as relatable as possible. And, you know, tried to write about, sometimes it's quite niche things, like, for example, Goth Girl is about the kind of strange interpretations people have of goth culture and witchcraft and stuff like that, and it plays on that. But then equally, like, you know, writing Hate Me is a much more kind of like direct sort of, you know, very kind of, I think, normal situation to have in your life. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, where you just really miss the mark with someone, and you just don't get why. You know, it's kind of like a very, very standard thing to go through. And I think we just like to draw on like everyday experiences, and kind of, but have undertones of feminism within it. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think that's such a great combination to have, where, like you say, focus on certain things, but allow that breathing nature within the interpretation for the listener. Because, you know, we do go through things in whatever walks of life quite similarly, but it's still such an individual experience. So I think that's a great combination, where it doesn't feel kind of like you're being told how to feel. It's you're allowing the listener to understand for themselves, which I think is so important when talking about like you say, when you mentioned on like feminist things, with allowing people to breathe and be able to understand how they feel towards the situation, how they can deal with it in their day-to-day life. I think that's so important.
100%, and that's kind of exactly nail on the head of what we're trying to do, you know. 100%.
Yeah, an all-girl band, you know, you kind of decided from the word go in terms of, we want this to be an all-girl band. How have you guys experienced since becoming a band with being an all-girl band in an industry where there's a lot of, you know, conversations right now with dealing with making it more fair and equal for everyone? How's it been over the last couple of years together as a band?
I think it's had its ups and the downs. Overall, we have had a lot of positive experiences, don't get me wrong. We've worked with incredible people. However, we have experienced things that our male counterparts probably won't experience. We have been harassed when we've been on stage. People shouted rude things at us in the past, even just down to maybe how sound engineers have treated us, like being a bit patronising about how sound works when we've all got degrees in music.
How my microphone works again, I really don't understand it.
Yeah, or even just down to me plugging my synth into a DI and things like that, people being shocked by it, which is I don't get it a lot, don't get me wrong, but there is sometimes people you've plugged your synth in, what? So yeah, there has been things like that online as well. I know a few of the girls have had inappropriate messages, things like that. But overall, I know that's all the negatives and it needs to be talked about. But you can't forget also the positives as well. We've worked with some incredible people, and it's great to see the support that everyone shows us as well. The ones who do show support, that is. But yeah, there is challenges.
I think at first the thing we were battling when we formed was we got a lot of, you know, people we considered friends as well, saying things like, oh, they're only doing well because they're all girls, and they're only doing well because they've got a good image, blah blah blah. And it's you know, and then they come and see us, and then people would say, oh, you're actually really good.
Oh yeah,
and
those undertones of actually,
just don't say anything at all if that's what you're going to say. Do you know what I mean?
Why make that presumption?
It's people took one look at us and thought, oh, you know, their image is the only way that they're going to do well because they won't be able to play their instruments, sort of thing, you know, or we're not taking us seriously because we're girls, and there's just more emphasis on the way we look as opposed to the way we play, you know. Image is obviously an incredibly important part of any band, regardless of any gender. Do you know what I mean? It's obviously you know, an image is just in a commercial aspect, you know, it's you know, it's fun to play with image, it's fun to kind of, you know, fall into your own identity. It's it's nice. Do you know what I mean? I'm not against that whatsoever, as long as the individual's happy. But I think pinning that to be the only thing as what we're successful for is very unfair, and I think inherently not feminist. Do you know what I mean? To say something like that, you know. But yeah, it's it was a shame, you know, but just glad to prove them wrong.
Yes, definitely. That must feel such a great feeling, and through those situations, the whole variation from either if that's labels, promoters, people, you know, that work at these venues, reviewers, bloggers, even myself, what kind of thing do you think either needs to change, needs to be done, or should be, you know, in some cases with people that are being proactive with ensuring things are more equal and fairer, and just representing music as a whole? What do you think is important to try and keep that going, to make sure that things become more equal?
Yeah, I think it definitely needs to be implemented to young people from all communities as well. I'm from a very low socioeconomic background, and the lack of support I had the lack of support that I had growing up when it comes to music, people just questioning your route into music, being a musician as well. I still get it today, people just being like, why are you doing that, or what are you doing that for, and things like that. It's much deeper. I think it's not just to do with gender either, it's to do with class, race, just all sort just definitely, all of it. So I think it is to do with how we see the creative arts when with young people, and just how we use the creative arts to express ourselves and to communicate as well. I'm a massive advocate of community music, but as well, when it comes to the bigger companies, it is giving the opportunities to more bands from all different backgrounds. Primavera, is it called, in Barcelona? They do such a good job of their festival having just 50-50 lineup. And as well, like now, not even making a point of it because it should be the normal. When
Yes,
you see other festivals and you pick out what 3 women on total in the full lineup, and you're just like, why? Like, do better. There's so many people from all backgrounds making all sorts of music, and yeah, it just needs to be implemented from the top to the bottom.
I think there's this attitude as well. Like I think a lot of promoters have kind of used this narrative to justify why they've not booked any women or anything like that, is that there just aren't any. And it's like, female musicians, you know, have existed since the birth of music, but the problem is that they weren't taken seriously. They weren't, as Grace said, they weren't given the same opportunities, especially when they were younger, to allow that to come to fruition. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it annoys me when people say, oh, there just aren't any. And it's like, look around you, there are just so many. And it has to start from the bottom up. You know, if female musicians aren't getting booked at grassroots venues, aren't getting put on lineups, how on earth are they going to progress? And then in turn, how on earth are young people going to see female musicians doing that? Do you know what I mean? And that's the problem we're facing. There isn't a lack of female talent or female musicianship. There has never been a lack of that. You know, I mean, even Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who's like known as the godmother of rock and roll, she was absolutely integral in the birth of rock and roll. She was only put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2018. And she was like a queer Black woman. But because of all those things, she was not given the correct credentials. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's such a shame. And that's the battle that we're facing with those things, is that it's just, women, well, specifically, I think it's gradually getting better now, but I think specifically, you know, in the past, it's definitely, we've just not been taken seriously.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, even we were, and you know, as privileged white women as well, we weren't even taken seriously.
It even roots to, like, we're going back like even centuries, but recently, because I grew up in like, my route into music was doing classical piano. And when I was about 10, 11, I was just like, why am I learning about all these like white men? Like, I clicked on pretty early and I was like, this isn't really what I'm into. And just recently over the winter, I came across the works of Hildegard von Bingen, and she was like predominant in Western music. She was making music back in the 10th, 11th century. It's like, why is she not in the curriculum when you're doing classical, but you learn about all the other people? I just learned, I literally did music at uni, never came across Hildegard. And it's like, she did all this monophonic music, and it's just mad that you just don't get taught about that.
No,
it's like we're on debate team there. Like, this is what we want and how we're going to do it.
Righting the wrongs.
Here's our manifesto.
Yes.
No, but that needs to happen, doesn't it? That needs to enter that kind of realm of existence, doesn't it? For proper change, where there are people, you know, those powers that be, actually listen, especially to an all-girl band, and like you say, even more people that are probably even more disadvantaged because of whatever reason. It just, that communication just needs to be non-stop, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And you know, that bands in privileged positions need to be talking about these things, not removing the voice of those people, but amplifying them to, you know, using their platform to do that. It's something that we're very cautious of doing and very dedicated to doing. 100%.
Yeah. And you guys absolutely nail it through so many different ways that you guys conduct yourselves as a band, with the music, with you guys as, like, for me, when I think of Venus Girls, I think of so many empowering things. And you know, you guys, you know, it's been 2.5 years all of a sudden. Yeah, no, I am pretty confident that loads of people are going to be going absolute nuts for Goth Girl, Hate Me, and all the other tracks for sure when it comes around to that point. This has been absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, GK and Grace. This has been a great chat. Congratulations again on Hate Me. It's out. Give it a listen. Listen again. It's just in my mind all the time. Like, I've been humming it non-stop, so I'm sure there's other people as well. Yeah.